So last year, I was working as an after-school teacher, and I thought it would be really cool if I got my classroom a planting kit. It came with everything that was needed. It came with a case, it came with the soil that went inside of it. It even had its own watering system, so I didn't even have to water it daily. The instructions for this were very simple. Place soil in the container, plant the seed, put the seeds on top, put water at the bottom of the container, and put near direct sunlight. Simple, right? Well, within the first 3 days, we started seeing roots growing. Very exciting. I've never planted anything, but at this point, I felt like poison ivy, like from Batman. So I felt like I could just spring up a whole garden. By the second week, the roots were growing. There was even leaves. By the third week, it stopped growing, and it wasn't until the fourth week that I realized why. There was mold growing in the roots. Yeah. Unfortunately, I had to throw it away, and my kids and I were really disappointed. But yeah, after that, I swore I would never torture a plant like that again. Now, some of you are good at gardening. Glenda Alvarado takes care of our flowers in the front, and they are beautiful. None of them had died yet. Mason Alvarado, he takes care of our lawn. And do you see how beautiful it looks every morning? But I've learned something. I don't have to be good at gardening, planting, or lawn care. I just have to know people who are good at it. If I've got the right friends and enough food to feed them, to get them to do my yard work, someone else can grow it for me. If you can afford it, sweet talk your way to a friend. Hire someone else, or for some of you, force your children into involuntary slave labor. You can have the best looking yard on the block without ever actually doing anything yourself. One person plants it, someone else waters it. You can hire a company to put the right chemicals on at the right time. Someone else trims, prunes, pulls the weeds, yet another person takes care of insects and bugs. You don't have to do anything but sit back, enjoy it, and take all the credit. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the American way. Wouldn't it be great if raising a family worked that way? Just like your yard, if you know the right people or have enough money, just get it done. You hire the child raising specialist, sit back, do absolutely nothing, and watch your perfect children sprout into fine, young doctors, athletes, and executives who support their parents into old age. Get the right people on your team, and your marriage will be healthy, loving, wonderful, and strong. No mess, no work, no arguments or struggles. No real effort, but great results. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. You can't assign your family to someone else. You can't buy your way to a healthy, happy marriage. Some of the worst marriages are actually with wealthy people. You can give your kids everything, and they will still do wrong. Actually, if you give them everything, that'll probably cause them to do wrong. So don't do that. Raising a healthy family, building a healthy marriage, and maintaining healthy relationships, it takes hard work, effort, intentionality, love, help, and a lot of prayer. One of our core values here in Mejia First Assembly is we must build healthy families. We need strong marriages that will stand the test of time. We need to raise children who love their parents and are lifelong followers of Jesus. It's not easy. It's difficult and challenging. In fact, some of you have a hard time believing your family or marriages will ever be strong and healthy. It sounds good, but you are convinced there is no way it can happen for you. You're about ready to give up. Others of you were raised with a poor family example. Your parents fought, someone had an affair. You may have grown up with angry, abusive parents. There were addiction issues. Maybe you never had a father. There were husbands, but never fathers. Maybe you had parents at home, but they weren't really present. They cared more about their job, friends, hobbies than they did about you. Because you've never been a part of or experienced a strong, healthy family, you have some concerns. How can I hope to have a healthy marriage if I've never seen one? How can I be anything but a horrible parent when that's all I've ever known? I do anything not to be like my parents. Is there hope? With so many marriages under attack, does yours have a chance? In a time when the family is at its weakest, can yours be strong and healthy? I've got good news. You can break the cycle in your family and have a strong, healthy marriage and good, honoring family. You are not doomed to fail. Over the next few weeks, we're going to be unpacking a biblical principle and show you how to set your family on the right path. If you are struggling in your marriage or family, I want you to listen and apply this to your family. If you are having a good family and everything's good, still listen. This can maybe help you in the future. If you don't have a family yet, but want one someday, listen, because in the future, you'll know how to set up a firm foundation for your family and for your kids. Paul wrote in Galatians chapter 6, "Do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows. The one who sows to please his sinful nature, from that nature will reap destruction. The one who sows to please the Spirit, from the Spirit will reap eternal life. Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up." In Family Farm, we're going to be studying sowing and reaping and learning how it applies to your family. We are going to talk about specific things you can plant in your family and the harvest you can expect. I want to start with general principles about farming. I am not a farmer, but I've listened to farmers and learned principles that apply to your family. If you ask a farmer what he is planting, he knows exactly where he is planting corn, where he is planting beans, and where he is planting rice. He has a plan for when to plant and knows when it is time to harvest. Imagine going out at planting time and asking, "What are you planting?" And the farmer answers, "I don't know. I went to the seed store and told them to surprise me. Just give me a bunch of stuff. I'll know what it is whenever it comes up." Nothing's more fun than a harvest surprise. That's a foolish farmer who won't be a farmer for long. Only a foolish farmer would plant without a plan. That's the first principle. Planning is not accidental, it's intentional. In your family, if you don't have a plan for what you are going to plant, the values, beliefs, traditions, and practices you will plant in your marriage, your spouse, and your children, you are like the foolish farmer, waiting for a harvest surprise. If you don't have a planting plan, you are probably planting wrong things. Because the fact is, you are always planting something, whether you intend to or not. You are randomly throwing stuff into your family, hoping the right things will come up. But random things keep popping up because you are only throwing the scraps. You haven't watered. You haven't enriched their lives. You haven't protected them from things that would come in and destroy them. Your family is a surprise because you haven't intentionally added anything. A healthy marriage and strong family does not happen by accident. It happens because you have a strategic plan. You intentionally planned good things so you will reap a good harvest. That's what we are going to work on in this series. What to plant, how to plant it, how to help it grow. It's not too late to have a plan. Our second principle is, what you plant is what grows. If you plant beans, guess what grows? Beans. If you plant corn, what do you get? Corn. Whatever you plant grows. In the same way, whatever you plant in your family, that's what's going to grow. If you plant generosity, generous givers grow. If you plant bitterness, bitter resentment grows. If you plant faithfulness, faithfulness grows. If you plant unfaithfulness, unfaithfulness will grow. If you plant anger, anger grows. If you plant criticism, you grow critics. If you plant a love for missions, guess what will grow? A love for missions. Maybe even a missionary. What you plant is what grows. The seeds you plant in your children and family now determine what grows later. That leads to the next principle, one that's a little painful. This is tough, but everything you plant grows. The things you intend to plant, they grow. The things you accidentally plant that you wish you wouldn't have planted grow as well. Everything you plant grows. Some of you are grieved, not because you're planting ugly things, but because you are not the only person planting seeds in your kid's life. Maybe you share custody with a parent who is far from the Lord. Or maybe you have a grandchild whose parents don't follow Jesus. Maybe you're fostering kids who may not be with you for long. Don't get discouraged. Get strategic. What you plant will grow. Purpose in your heart to sow out the negative influences in that child's life. The Lord has positioned you to make an incredible, even internal difference in their life. Make the most of the moments you have. The next principle is, what you don't plant won't grow. You can't expect something to grow that you didn't plant. Imagine the farmer at harvest time, going through the field with his combine from sun up to sundown, harvesting the crops. When he comes in, you can tell he's angry. What's wrong? Why are you so upset? I spent all day in the field. I didn't get one sunflower. Not one. I looked and looked and looked. There were 0 sunflowers in that stupid field. Well, how many sunflowers did you plant? I didn't plant sunflowers. I planted corn. But I wanted sunflowers. In fact, I intended to plant sunflowers. I just didn't get around to it. Foolish farmer, what you don't plant won't grow. I can't count how many times I've heard the same conversation. A family will be really sporadic at church attendance. Mom and dad skip for any and everything. Then their kid enters student reality ministry. Middle school and high school brings a whole different type of temptations. Wrong friends, challenging situations. All of a sudden, mom and dad are worried because their kids aren't putting church first. Their kids aren't wanting to come on Wednesday or Sundays, and they graduate and step away from the church altogether. I'm going to try to be tender, but I have to be truthful. The reason your children are not being faithful at church is because you don't plant that in them. The reason they don't want to come on Wednesdays is because you're not modeling that habit. You are reaping exactly what you are sowing. You never planted faithfulness. Why would you expect it to grow? You're like the farmer, mad because he didn't get sunflowers when what he planted was corn. You can't sow seeds of one kind into your kids and hope to reap a harvest of something else. Thinking about planting good seeds, wanting the results of good seeds, even intending to plant good seeds isn't enough. You need to plant the seeds yourself. You reap what you sow. Don't blame someone else when you harvest what you planted. What you don't plant won't grow. Now, I want to look at this from a different direction. This is a powerful principle. First, choose the desired harvest that determines the seeds. This is a powerful exercise for your family. Sit down with your spouse, your children, or your future spouse. Instead of looking through a short lens, what do we want and need right now? Look through a long lens. Ask these kinds of questions. What do we want other people to see when they observe our marriage? When we reach 25-year anniversary, what things do we want to be present and valued? What are some things we want to see our children spiritually? What kind of person do we want them to be? How do we want our children to treat others? How do we want them to react to those who are different than them? What do we want our children's priorities to be? How do we want them to handle money? What kind of givers do we want them to be? What core values do we want our children to develop and ultimately pass down to their children? Start at the end result, the harvest. Determine what you want to harvest, and then figure out how to plant that. Michael and I have been married for 2 years, and unfortunately, we aren't parents yet. But from the very beginning, we have discussed the values we want to place in our kids. We, however, are youth pastors, and the same values that we hope to one day teach our kids, we teach our youth. We want them to love church and church people, not resent it like so many other kids. We want them to be tender-hearted towards God and towards people. We want them to be accepting and loving towards people who are different than them. Different race, different color, different background, it doesn't matter. We want them to be generous givers who put God's kingdom first. We want them to value sacrifice. We want them to be affectionate and loving with their parents. We want them to be outward focused. Since we decided what we want to harvest, we planted intentional seeds towards those goals. We make sure to teach and develop practices that lead towards that specific harvest. All too often, you don't think of it that way. We look at the short term, you're just trying to survive the terrible twos or make it until they're sleeping through the whole night. Sometimes it seems the first few years are more about us and our ego than our kids' development. I'm afraid we sometimes worry more about impressing people than planting the right things in our kids. Listen to me. It is never too early to start planting the right values in your children. Farming would be easy if all you had to do was plant the seeds, then watch TV until harvest time. Instead, it's long, hard work. A farmer has to make sure the plants get enough water, make sure the plant gets the right kind of sunshine, fight weeds, fight infections and diseases, keep predators out of the fields. It's not a vacation between planting and harvesting. It's a lot of work. It's no immediate payoff. Just like the vegetables that I planted with my kids, your good seeds are hard at work under the dirt. Just because you haven't seen it yet doesn't mean it's not happening. Be patient. Commit. Do the work. If you don't do the work, you lose the harvest. What you neglect after planting dies. You have to plant the right things in your family. Then fight to keep the right things growing. Sometimes it's a battle. Jesus told us that it would happen. The thief comes only to steal, kill, and destroy. Satan wants to destroy your harvest. He wants to tear down your marriage and rob your children of their potential. It's a war to keep the right things growing and the wrong things away. If you neglect the seed, it dies. Do you know what that means? It's not enough to plant values one time. I'm sure my mother struggled to teach me faithfulness. She was a single working mom of 3 kids. There was days when she didn't want to go to church, but it was a continual, everyday, outgoing, intentional process. Some days it was tiring, but harvest time sure is wonderful. The principle here is, if you are not having problems with the planting, ask for help. If something is going wrong with a crop, a wise farmer hires a crop consultant who knows more than he does. He doesn't say, I'm a farmer, I know what I'm doing. I'll figure it out. He doesn't wait until he loses the harvest. When it isn't going right, he asks for help quickly. In your marriage and in your family, when something isn't working, ask for help. I don't understand why people wait until there is a crisis to ask for help. Actually, I do understand why. It's stinking pride. They don't want anyone to think that they are struggling, have problems, don't know everything, and need help. That's foolish. Don't wait for failure before you ask for help. At every stage, you need help. You need advice from someone who has been there and knows more than you. Why would you act like you know how to raise an infant when you've never had one? Ask for help. Why would you ever pretend to understand a junior high girl. Ask for help. You've never been married before. We don't expect you to know everything. There are going to be challenges that didn't anticipate and problems you didn't understand. Ask for help. Please don't wait until everything crashes. Please don't wait until you have a crisis. Ask for help at the very first sight of a struggle. Ask for help when you are facing a new stage of life. Ask for help. I come from a long line of single mothers. So when Michael and I were discussing getting married, I was scared. My whole life I prepared myself to eventually become a single mother. But there I was, with a man I loved and respected. When we got engaged, I decided I was going to break my family's generational curse. So we went to premarital counseling. They say the first year of marriage is the hardest. And I needed tools to prepare me for what the first year had to hold. Our first year was difficult. There was days I didn't know if we were going to make it. I don't know how we were going to get through all of the problems that we had, but every time we faced something difficult or knew we were going to face something, we asked for help. Since our first year, things have gotten better, but we still have hard days. And on those days, I make sure to always ask for help, either from Pastor Jason and Pastor Tina, or people that have been married longer than we have. Now, do other people think less of Michael and I? I would hope not. But if I'm being honest, I don't care. Because I would rather ask for help and admit I don't know what I'm doing and have a long-lasting, happy marriage than pretend I know what I'm doing, mess everything in my marriage, and slowly watch it crash and burn. Ask for help before your family craters. Ask for help before your partner says, I can't take it anymore. One more principle. If you are not happy with your current harvest, plant something different. If you don't like those beans, you'd be crazy to plant them again. If you don't like the strain of corn, plant something different. Some of you are discouraged, looking at your marriage or your kids. You aren't very happy with your current harvest. If that's you, it's time to plant something different. Don't blame others. That's a trap. Too many times people want to blame their background, their parents' lack of parenting skills, or what they don't have, rather than take responsibility for their current harvest in their own family. What you plant grew now. Now start planting right things. Figure out the harvest you want and get planting. It's never too late to start planting right things. Well, I've been trying for 3 months, planting good seeds in my marriage. Nothing is happening. It might take longer than 3 months. We've been trying for weeks. We don't see any changes in our children. It might take longer than 3 weeks. Harvest time is not immediate. Farmers don't plant corn on Monday and harvest on Tuesday. It's a process. It takes time. Too many people quit too soon. They give up on the seed long before the harvest. But how long do I wait? How long does it take? I don't know. But I know this. Although harvest time is not immediate, harvest time does come. Don't give up. Keep planting. You might be thinking, I've tried. I've planted good things in my children. I'm doing my best to plant the right things in my children's lives. I'm doing my best. I'm planting good things in my marriage and in my family. Nothing seems to be working. I don't seem to get anywhere. Let's look back one more time at Galatians 6:9. Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. Now I'm going to read it from the Living Bible. So let us not get tired of doing what is good. At just the right time, we will reap a harvest of blessing if we do not give up. Don't quit. At the proper time, at just the right time, you will reap a harvest. Keep planting. Keep fighting. You have a promise. Don't give up. I understand that I've only been married for I'm gonna cry because I get emotional. I understand I haven't been married long enough, as some of you. I understand I don't have kids. But I've seen this done in my own life. My family and I, we weren't always going to church. We were that sporadic family that came every now and then. My mom, church wasn't our first focus. If anything, we just went on Christmas and on holidays. But one day, my mom heard a message like this, and she decided, I want that to change. I want to break my family cycle. I want my kids to be involved in church. I want to help them the best way I can, and clearly I can't do it on my own, so I have to give it to God. Ever since that day, she's been going to church. She's been getting involved. She's been volunteering, going to every church event, and dragging us with her. And I can promise you, I did not enjoy that. There was days where I was like, I don't want to. There was days I went to youth and snuck out because I didn't want to be there. But she made us keep going. She listened to Christian music in the car, read us Bible verses. She kept pushing. And because of that, I'm here today. I can promise you that she did not expect me to be up here preaching or married to a pastor. I didn't expect that either. But it happened because she didn't give up. It didn't happen in weeks or months. It took years, way too many years. But it happened, and she was patient. And because of that, I respect and I love my mother so much more now. So I'm the result of a person that was patient and tried to change things, even though it seemed like it was too late. It's not too late to plant good things in your kids. It is not too late to plant good things in your marriage. If you want your marriage to work, if you want to have a healthy and happy family, it's gonna take time. Right now, I wanna ask you guys to bow your heads so we can pray. God, I thank you because you're patient with us. And I know patience isn't always our strongest suit, but I just ask for everybody in this room, Lord. If they have a family, or maybe they don't, maybe they're planning on starting one soon, or maybe they're not. God, I just pray that you would just give them patience to be able to wait for that harvest that you have, Lord. I pray that in those moments of weakness when they just want to give up, I pray that you'll give them strength to keep going forward and to ask for help before it's too late. God, we thank you because you're patient with us and you love us. We thank you because you have brought us here to listen to this message. In your name we pray. Amen.